Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in today to this video, which is about things that I would love to see in a school curriculum, and not for a paid education through university, but just in starting in elementary school days, moving through high school, things we can learn at appropriate ages, whatever those might be, depending on the subject. But at least at an age where you're starting to think about these things before you either learn about them the hard way or you're forced to learn about them via some other circumstance that isn't super favorable. So why not start young when our minds are molding? First of all, though, I would like to say that I am very grateful to live in North America where there is free public education. I think that's invaluable in itself, and we're super fortunate in this part of the world to have access to this. However, like anything in life, there is always room for improvement. And this is just my take, just a few thoughts on where I think we could improve in our school system. And I'm totally out of touch with the school system, so maybe more appropriately, this would be something I wish I had learned when I was in school. But if these things are still not in the curriculum, I do think they would be valuable to be in there. So I've got some notes here, and let's just get started. So number one is how to relax. I know for me, I was so hard on myself in school from probably preschool or at least kindergarten onward. I put so much pressure on myself to succeed. And my view of success at the time was to get the best grades and be the most stellar student. But at the same time, I was terrified to really stand out. So it was like this hard balance that I put on myself to shine, but not really shine too much. So I would have loved to have learned some sort of applicable, practical, perhaps mindfulness technique, or even just basic breathing techniques that I know now that really help me when I'm struggling with something in the moment or worried about something in the future or dwelling on something in the past or even reaching for a goal, just to allow myself to put less pressure on myself and to relax more without the fear of failure lurking all the time or concern about judgment from my superiors or my peers or my family. So learning to relax, some sort of technique such as basic meditation or breathing techniques or just positive calming self-talk. If that could somehow be implemented in schools, I think a lot of kids, knowing how I coped and how I've learned how others have coped since I've opened up about my struggles in that area, I think a lot of people would find value in that. Number two, taxes. We all have to do our taxes. What's that? One of the two certainties in life? Death and taxes. But yeah, it's such a skill we need to learn for ourselves. We all have to do our taxes. We're all accountable to where our money is going. And it's not something I remember ever having any education in when I was in school. And until you start having a job, you aren't really forced to know this sort of thing. But I think if you have some sort of awareness around it, then you're just that much more empowered to know how to go about approaching this when you need to, because if you don't file your taxes, that will catch up with you. And if you file them incorrectly, that will catch up with you too. So I think that perhaps as part of the math curriculum, taxes could be implemented. It's a practical skill. Why not? Number three, the political system. Unless you actively seek out studies in politics or you grew up in a politically active, civically engaged family, then chances are you don't really know a whole lot about how our political system works in Canada. And I'm talking civic level, provincial level, and federal level. I mean, a chunk of my degree was in political science, and I don't even feel like I still have a good grasp on how our political system works. And I'll admit that. I'm relatively engaged, but I feel like the elections, no matter what level, they just always sneak up on us, and I'm always scrambling to figure out the facts. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna vote because I know this is my given right that people before me have fought for, and I owe it to myself and to my country to use this gift. But is it really being used in the best, most valuable way that it can? I don't know. And I know this sort of subject is implemented later on in high school, but if somehow it could be sprinkled in through the social studies curriculum from an earlier age, I think we could really have the power to make a difference in how people are engaged in politics and how they can feel more empowered to have a say in how their country is shaped. So I don't think that's too big of an ask. I mean, politics are around us everywhere. And I think that would be really awesome if we could all know how to use our right to vote with a little more meaning behind it, so we feel like it's really being valued. Number 4, budgeting. Now, if you've read any of my vlog, my first post was about personal finances, and I don't know really how that came to be. I've always loved saving money and then using it wisely, and the thrill of reaching a savings goal has always been something in me. And I've always kind of wondered if our views on money are genetic or somehow innate, or if it's a learned skill. I guess it's a bit of both, depending on who you are. And I know money is such a loaded topic, but I think the more we start talking about it, the more we can feel comfortable about our choices around it and our values around it. And I don't remember really ever learning about budgeting. This isn't an area where I really struggled with. The only thing is there are extremes. There's purchase paralysis, which is a thing. Like, it physically causes me pain sometimes to spend money because of fear of not having enough. So then there's the other end of the spectrum where you spend beyond your means and you have debt. So a lot of life is about striking balance, and money is certainly an area where I think myself and many others would value from having some education in how to manage your money, because we all need money to survive and to get by in this world. And everyone's comfort level and how much money they have is different. And I'm not here to say what your choices on spending are right or wrong, but I think if people had the knowledge of what is a pension plan, how do I live within my means, how do I save for whatever goal, a trip, or a house, or a pet, or to have a family, or just some toy you want to buy for yourself to play and have fun. What's a GIC? What's a bond? What's a mutual fund? What's an RRSP? How do I know I'm going to have enough money for when I'm retired? But when do I know when I'm going to retire? There's just so much behind it. And I feel like we don't learn that sometimes until we're kind of brought to our knees and, okay, I'm in this predicament, and how do I get myself out of it? Did I have to get to this point to learn? Or could I have had some skills along the way to have paved a path that was a little more smooth and a little more comfortable and a little more knowledgeable, and so that I can have that balance between spending and saving as opposed to being on one side of the spectrum or the other. I think that would be so awesome. Again, maybe as part of the math curriculum. Now what number are we on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 6. Okay. This is a big one. This is how to identify feelings. And I know I can remember when I was young looking at happy faces and sad faces and angry faces and scoring really well on tests and being like, that emotion is sad, that emotion is anger, but that's not identifying feelings. I know until I was, in my earlier mid-20s, and I was really grappling with, why do I feel so anxious all the time? Why am I so scared of everything? Why am I sad? On paper, my life is so good. I'm not living the most lavish life in the world, but I'm not on the streets begging. So a lot of it had to do with lack of emotional control. And one thing that I've learned is the value of nonviolent communication or compassionate communication. And I'll put a link to a resource below about that, because it's something that has served me ever since I've learned it a few years ago. And it was founded by someone named Marshall Rosenberg, and I think it's just the most beautiful formula for identifying what's going on inside you being able to speak up and being able to ask for a change. And the basic formula is observation, feeling, need, request. So that starts with an awareness of what's going on. And then if you can sort of dig a little deeper into the root of that feeling, you can identify it by giving it sadness or anger and genuinely knowing that that's what's going on inside of you. And then you can express a need. So what do I need in that moment? Do I need to make some sort of change for myself? Do I need to back off from a situation? Do I need to ask for something? And that's where the request comes in. So if you're being asked, say, for example, for a commitment to be made by you, but you're not really sure about it, but you can't really express why it's bothering you, and then you just go along with the commitment, then you're doing it out of guilt and obligation when really you do have a choice. And to know that you have a choice about how to react in a situation gives you so much power, and it makes you realize that you are worthy of speaking up for yourself and you do have a voice. And it's okay if you stumble and you fall when you're trying to first identify this feeling when you're not used to doing this, and to speak up and ask for what you want. That's huge. And if you can practice that, you can build confidence. And I think confidence is something that so many kids lack and so many people lack. And I know I've lacked it for so long. And once you feel empowered to be able to speak up, your life changes. And it's not a perfect practice, it's a lifelong practice. But the more awareness you can build around this practice, I think the more effective a communicator you can become, the more effectively you can express your needs, and the more effectively your relationships are. To know what's good for you, no matter what other people think, it just allows you to have a life with more ease, more happiness, and more comfort, among other things. So I'm very, very passionate about that. So now what number are we on? I think we're on the last one here. So number 7? 1, 2, 3, 6 or 7. I'm getting into this. So I want to finish strong here. My last item that I would like to see in a school curriculum would be that it's okay to ask for help. And this is something that I still need to learn, that I still find myself being taught this lesson, you know, with me kind of being brought to a point where I had to learn it other than me just being aware of it. And I tackled it head on and I got it. No, it's really easy to sort of let things slide and pretend like you know what you're doing until you kind of have to face up and be honest that you actually don't, and you have to ask for help. And that's taken me a long time to figure out. I've never, and I don't fully know why, liked asking for help. It seemed to me like a sign of weakness, when really it's really smart people who do speak up and ask for help when they're not sure about something. I think, and the more we learn as we grow, we realize we don't know that much, and there's always going to be more to learn. And if we can seek knowledge from others, that isn't weakness, that's actually a strength. And every time that I'm reminded of this, I realize the value of it. And again, it takes practice. I remember being in my first year of university and having to do a PowerPoint presentation. So this was in 2005, and I barely used a computer that much at this point. And I was terrified of using PowerPoint, and I had to have a friend come with me to my professor's office for me to get a tutorial from my professor who was willing to give me an instruction on how to do this. Whereas I just was so scared I was going to look like this stupid, technologically not savvy person. And at the end of the day, it was the best thing because it was not hard at all. I mean, PowerPoint, that is easy. And the fact that I just doubted myself that much and I couldn't just ask a question and ask for help and be like, no, I don't know this, but that's okay, I'll learn. That is something that I would have loved to have been able to do with more comfort. So finally, in my last year of university, it was a big deal because I went to a professor's office. I know it was third year university, in a study that was like ancient Greek law, so it was totally foreign to me. I was just trying to get humanities credits that I needed to graduate. And when you go to a professor in like the first few weeks, they love it. They get to share their passion with you, because chances are your professor is psyched to share their knowledge about something they've been studying forever about. And it served me well because that put me in a really good light for the rest of the semester. And I got really good grades, and I didn't know what I was doing in that class, but I showed an interest and a willingness to be engaged and do the best I could with the knowledge I had. So that is definitely just one example of how it takes practice, but once you're able to ask for help, it's actually, you kind of prove yourself wrong that no, I'm not that silly for not knowing something that I thought I should have. We're all here to learn, and we're all here to help each other. And if I could have learned earlier that, have it really be reinforced that it's okay to ask for help, that would have set the tone for a lot of my life earlier on. And I think it would be valuable for other people to feel like they're worthy of speaking up and asking for help when they need it, and to not be afraid that they'll just be laughed at or pushed aside or otherwise negatively treated. And with those points of my thoughts on public education and where it could improve, I hope that it all made sense. And I'm also super curious to know what you would have liked to have learned when you were in school that could have set you up to cope with life better earlier on, rather than learning the things the hard way. So I hope that some of this resonated with you, and I hope that you're being kind to yourself. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!